When we look at the vast map of human civilization, it is easy to focus on the borders, languages, and religious dogmas that keep us apart. However, beneath these surface-level differences lies a single, powerful common thread that has allowed humanity to survive and thrive for thousands of years: the principle of compassion. This is not just a soft emotion or a vague religious feeling, it is a practical survival mechanism and a foundational pillar for any functioning society. From the ancient cities of Mesopotamia to the modern metropolises of today, the idea that we must recognize the suffering of others and take direct action to alleviate it is a universal truth. This segment explores how compassion acts as a global language that predates modern politics and structured religion, serving as the biological and spiritual glue of the human race. Defining global compassion requires looking at how different cultures independently arrived at the same conclusion, that an individual's well-being is tied to the well-being of the collective. Whether it is called karuna in the East, agape in the West, or Ubuntu in Africa, the core logic remains identical. It is the active choice to treat a stranger with the same dignity and care that one would afford to their own family. By examining these historical intersections, we see that compassion is the baseline of our shared spiritual heritage. It provides a neutral ground, where people from completely different backgrounds can meet and understand one another. This section sets the stage for the rest of the video by establishing that while our rituals and names for the divine may vary, the output of true faith is always the same: a deep, practical commitment to the service of others. At the heart of the life of Jesus is a very specific and radical form of compassion known as selfless love. This was not a passive affection, but a direct mission to challenge the social and religious barriers of his time. Jesus did not just talk about love in abstract terms, he lived it out through actions that were often seen as scandalous by the authorities of his era. He chose to sit at the table with outcasts, to touch the untouchable lepers, and to defend those who were being judged by the religious establishment. His mission was built on the idea that love is only real when it costs you something, whether that is your social status, your comfort, or ultimately your life. This radical approach transformed the concept of compassion from a simple politeness into a revolutionary force for social change. This selfless love, often referred to as agape, focuses on the needs of the other person without expecting anything in return. It is a one-way street of kindness that does not keep score. For Jesus, the highest expression of faith was found in the act of sacrifice, putting the needs of the weak and the marginalized above one's own safety. This segment examines how this mission provided a new blueprint for human relationships. By shifting the focus away from strict legalism and toward the spirit of the law, which is love, Jesus created a framework that anyone could follow, regardless of their education or social standing. His message was direct and practical. If you want to understand the divine, you must start by loving the person standing right in front of you. This focus on selfless love serves as the bridge to other global traditions, proving that the core of his teaching is a universal invitation to live for something greater than oneself. In the Buddhist tradition, compassion is not merely a feeling but a profound spiritual discipline known as karuna. This concept is rooted in the practical realization that all living beings are interconnected, and that the suffering of one is ultimately the suffering of all. To practice karuna is to move beyond the narrow walls of the ego, and to develop an active desire to remove the pain of others. This is often personified in the figure of the bodhisattva, a being who has reached the doorstep of enlightenment but chooses to turn back and remain in the world until every other soul has been liberated from suffering. This level of commitment mirrors the sacrificial nature seen in the mission of Jesus, showing that the highest form of spiritual achievement in the East is measured by one's service to the collective whole. The path of karuna is highly practical. It involves the systematic training of the mind to replace anger and selfishness with empathy and kindness. Buddhists use specific meditation techniques to cultivate this state of being, but the end goal is always found in direct action. Whether it is providing food for the hungry, caring for the sick, or simply offering a listening ear to someone in distress, karuna is about being present for the real needs of humanity. This segment explores how this Buddhist path aligns with universal faith by emphasizing that true wisdom is inseparable from compassion. By viewing the world through the lens of karuna, we see that the barriers we build between us and them are illusions. This realization leads to a life of radical kindness that looks very similar to the selfless love taught in the West, providing a powerful cross-cultural bridge for understanding human nature and our shared responsibilities to one another. While other traditions might focus on the spiritual or divine aspects of compassion, the Confucian foundation is built on the social and practical application of Ren. Often translated as humaneness or benevolence, Ren is the fundamental virtue that makes us truly human. It is the quality of caring for others that starts within the family and ripples outward to the community and the state. Confucius taught that a stable society cannot be built on laws alone, it must be built on the Ren of its citizens. This is tied closely to the concept of reciprocity, the famous instruction to not do to others what you would not want done to yourself. This is a direct, grounded ethic that focuses on the quality of our daily interactions. It suggests that compassion is not a grand, occasional gesture but a constant, quiet commitment to the people around us. This Confucian approach provides a solid framework for how to live a life of integrity and mutual respect. It emphasizes that we have a duty to support one another because our identities are shaped by our relationships. If we want to be respected, we must show respect. If we want to be helped, we must be helpful. This segment examines how this focus on reciprocity creates a reliable social contract that mirrors the ethical standards found in the teachings of Jesus. By prioritizing the well-being of the neighbor and the harmony of the community, the Confucian tradition offers a practical way to manage human conflict and build a culture of empathy. It proves that compassion is a universal necessity for civilization to survive. When we look at Ren and reciprocity, we see that the ancient wisdom of the East provides a secular and social parallel to the religious calls for love, proving that the desire for a kinder world is a fundamental part of the human DNA. When we place the teachings of Jesus alongside the wisdom of the East, we discover a series of cross-cultural echoes that are too consistent to be a mere coincidence. This intersection of values reveals that regardless of the geographic or historical starting point, human civilizations eventually arrive at the same moral destination. The selfless love of the West, the great compassion of the East, and the humaneness of the Confucian tradition all meet at a single point: the realization that our survival depends on our ability to value others as much as ourselves. This segment looks at the historical moments where these values merged, such as along the Silk Road, where merchants and monks from different traditions found they could trust one another because they shared a common ethical vocabulary. They didn't need to agree on the nature of the afterlife to agree on the necessity of honesty, mercy, and protection for the vulnerable. These intersections prove that there is a moral law that transcends individual cultures. When we see a Christian organization working alongside a Buddhist relief group in a disaster zone, we are witnessing this intersection in real time. They are speaking different languages and praying to different names, but their hands are doing the same work. This shared spiritual heritage provides a powerful defense against the idea that civilizations are destined to clash. Instead, it suggests that we are all part of a single, unfolding story of human empathy. By focusing on these echoes, we can strip away the noise of religious competition and find a solid foundation for global cooperation. This section emphasizes that these shared values are not just ancient history, they are the living, breathing heart of our modern world, providing a rare space where diverse people can stand on common ground and recognize each other's humanity. In a world increasingly divided by political borders and digital echo chambers, the practice of compassion has moved from a private virtue to a necessary tool for solving modern global conflicts. This is compassion in action, the real-world application of the principles we have discussed. When we look at successful peace negotiations or international reconciliation efforts, we find that they almost always begin when one side makes a deliberate, compassionate move to understand the grievances of the other. It is the logic of loving your enemy applied to modern diplomacy. By choosing to see an opponent not as a monster, but as a human being with fears and needs, negotiators can dismantle the cycles of revenge that keep conflicts alive for generations. This is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate expression of strength and strategic intelligence. We see this practical compassion in the work of non-governmental organizations and grassroots movements that operate in high-tension zones. These groups don't just provide aid, they create peace corridors where dialogue can happen. By using the shared values of universal faith, they provide a framework for mutual respect that political treaties often lack. For instance, when community leaders from rival backgrounds work together to ensure clean water or healthcare for all children in a region, they are practicing a form of compassion that transcends the conflict itself. This segment examines how these direct, tangible actions serve as the most effective antidote to hatred. It proves that while ideology can drive us apart, the shared human need for safety, dignity, and care can pull us back together. Compassion in action is the only force capable of breaking the walls of modern tribalism. offering a practical path toward a future where we prioritize our collective survival over our individual grievances. As we look toward the horizon of the 21st century, the ultimate challenge facing our species is whether we can move beyond mere coexistence and begin building a true civilization of empathy. This is the natural conclusion of the universal faith we have explored, a future where the compassion of Jesus, the Karuna of the East, and the reciprocity of global ethics are no longer just individual ideals, but the very foundation of our global infrastructure. A civilization of empathy is one that recognizes that in an interconnected world, the suffering of a person on the other side of the planet eventually impacts us all. This is a practical, grounded vision for the future. It suggests that our technological and economic progress must be matched by a corresponding progress in our ability to understand and care for one another. If we can build satellites that connect the world digitally, we must also build the emotional and spiritual bridges that connect us humanely. Creating this shared future requires us to move from a mindset of competition to one of deep, intentional cooperation. It involves teaching empathy as a core skill in our schools, practicing it in our boardrooms, and demanding it from our leaders. By embracing our shared spiritual heritage, we find that we already possess the tools needed to navigate the complexities of environmental change, social inequality, and technological disruption. The legacy of the great teachers and the quiet architects of history has given us a blueprint for a world where dignity is a birthright and compassion is the standard of success. This final segment encourages every viewer to see themselves as a builder of this new civilization. It is not an impossible dream, but a direct result of the small daily choices we make to act with kindness and integrity. By finding unity in our diversity, we can ensure that the next chapter of the human story is one defined by our capacity to love, to listen, and to build a lasting home for all of humanity.